Hey, it's Matt, and welcome to the Week 5 Pickems of the VDL Victini Division. I'm recording this live. I have a little bit of a script, but this is I'm a quick substitute for the Pickems this week, and I'm hoping to do them well, but I've never done them before. It is me and me alone this week, so a lot of my opinions are going to be I guess opinionated, for a lack of a better word. But I hope you guys enjoy it. If there's anything you guys think I should improve in case I end up doing Pickems again later, let me know. Normally it's going to be a lot more visually appealing this week, but because I am in a deadline to get this in, we're gonna win. See how it goes. I got my coffee, got my water, and we are gonna rock it. So the first match we are going to look at is Veizen versus Orange. Right now Veizen is at 2-2 with a +3 differential, however coming off of a loss, and Orange right now is 1-3 with a -7 differential and tied for last, also coming off of a loss. So both of these teams have a lot to play for this week. Veizen's team is Gouging Fire, Walking Wake, Metagross, Gliscor, Overquill, Galarian Weezing, Torkoal, a Terra Brute Bonnet with the Terra types of Ground, Dark, and Steel, a Dusknoir, a Terra Hisuian Electrode with the types of Fairy, Electric, and Flying, and then a Combuskin. And on the other side, on Orange's team, they have a Chien-Pao, a Zapdos, an Ogerpon Wellspring, a Tinkaton, Donphan, Terra Northern with Normal, Flying, and Ghost, a Quillfish, not Hisuian, just normal, a Terra Colossal with Water, Fire, and Fairy, Pissimian, the freshly added Screamtail, and Ursaring. So kind of going through my notes here, this seems like it's going to be a really interesting matchup, and it's not going to be easy for either side. I am predicting we can see some super fun sets here this week, especially on Veizen's side. They have a little bit more wiggle room, and I think they need to do something fun to break down Orange's team, which is, while it's not incredibly bulky, it is annoying to break. What I've noticed from Veizen's side specifically is that they have much more sweeping potential this week, with Gouging Fire, or a speed boosting Walking Wake, or even an Overquill in the rain, if that's something that they want to be cheeky and play around with. They have a lot more sweeping potential than Orange's side does. And on top of that, Galarian Weezing this game from Veizen's side looks incredibly strong and super hard to break. It could run both Levitate or Neutralizing Gas this week. And seeing that against almost all of Veizen's Mons, probably except for Tinkaton. And if it decides to go Neutralizing Gas Donphan, nothing feels good breaking that down. So I think Weezing is a for sure pick on Veizen's side this week, and almost has to come to be so annoying to break. And on top of Weezing, you have a Gliscor there, and you have a bulky Metagross, and you even have a Dusknoir that, outside of Chien-Pao, nothing is going to be able to break super easily. Like, there's some super bulky mons that this week on Veizen's side that can typically run offensive, that I think, even if they are run with like a mixed bulk set, are going to be really difficult for Orange to break down. Hopping over the Orange side real quick, they have a few mons though that can be really cheeky this week. Specifically a super offensive and fast Noivern. That Noivern could put a ton of work in this week, with only really Galarian Weezing able to check it, and Metagross, sure, but you can run fire moves on Noivern. Nothing is going to love taking hits from this thing, especially because Veizen has very little healing opportunity within their team. They don't have a Wish user. They have a Gliscor that's able to heal up, and then a Pain Split from Weezing, and maybe a Dusknoir too. But outside of that, and Morning Sun from Gouging Fire, fine. But there's not a lot that is going to be able to heal up Veizen's team. So if Orange this week is able to get off a lot of chip, whether that's in hazards, which I don't think that's the route they're going to go, but whether that is in hazards or getting off an offensive mon out early and just throwing Dracos and throwing air slashers into that team, it could be really difficult for Veizen to come back at the end of this game. Speed tiers are super fascinating this week too, with Orange's Chanpao, Northern, and Screamtail. Oh, and Ogerpon actually, being faster than everything on Veizen's team besides Hisuian Electrode. Does that mean Hisuian Electrode is going to come this week? I don't think so. It very well could, especially being Terra. A Terra Fairy Hisuian Electrode looks really, really scary. But I don't think it's going to come. Chanpao, Northern, and Screamtail all being faster than Walking Wake and Gouging Fire is really scary for their team. So something like a speed boosting Walking Wake I'm absolutely expecting to come. Or on Veizen's side, a Dragon Dance Gouging Fire is going to be impossible to break. A Dragon Dance subset is going to be super, super hard to not just break down, but live from. Orange has no good switch-ins to Gouging Fire. His best two are, I guess, Northern to take the Heat Crashes, which is going to die to a Heat Crash or a Dragon Claw, and an Intimidate Quillfish, which once that's knocked off, or even just an Earthquake from a +1, or at this point I guess neutral Gouging Fire, it's not going to stay in the field long. Zapdos could be annoying, especially if it brings static. I think paralysis hacks might be super important this week for Orange. With status Zapdos and Screamtail being able to run, being able to run Thunder Wave. They may have to throw out statuses pretty early and just start trying to cripple Veizen's team speed-wise. And there are a few things that Orange could bring that could really help this week too. Like Ogerpon Wellspring looks like it can do some really good damage if it's brought right, especially if it has like a Stomping Tantrum set. It's going to be able to hit everything at least neutrally and get some either get some health back with Horn Leech or really nuke things like Metagross and Gliscor with a Wood Hammer. Even though that Walking Wake is not going to want to take a Wood Hammer. And an Ivy Cudgel does a lot on a Gouging Fire, and a Stomping Tantrum after an Ivy Cudgel, if Gouging Fire is not speed boosted, it's going to hit like a truck. And of course, in this week we can't miss out on Chanpao from Orange's side. If Orange can play his Northern around Veizen and Metagross, it looks super strong, and Chanpao is kind of able to take at least the Metagross relatively well if it's doing Dark Stab or Metagross is chipped a lot, and Chanpao shuts down Gliscor. Chanpao isn't really afraid of Overquill unless it's an Intimidate set. But really, I do think I'm going to give the win to Veizen this week, just because Veizen has so much that is hard to break, and Orange is going to have to play perfectly to get around the things like Gouging Fire and Walking Wake, and Metagross, and even Gliscor. Get rid of Chanpao and Donphan with Ice Shard, which Ice Shard is kind of a, do you want to put it on? Do you not want to put it on? It's so just the top 4 mons are going to be impossible to break down, while all 4 of them can do heavy damage to Orange's team. But it's going to be a really, really good game this week. Both teams have a lot to play for, and I'm really looking forward to it. Looking at the second battle this week, we have Derpster versus MemyMem. Derpster is currently 4-0. It is the only undefeated team in Victini right now with a +14 differential, which is incredible. And MemyMem, who is 1-3 at -7, but coming off of their first win this week and has been unlucky, it's fair to say, this season. Derpster's team consists of an unbelievable Fairy Dragon Steel core of Iron Valiant, Garchomp, and Corviknight. Alongside of that, things like Ogerpon Cornerstone, Milotic, a Terra Jolteon with Ice, Electric, and the newly added Terra Water. Incineroar, Pheasantipede, which he has used to great work. Dusclops, Spidops, and a Terra Hisuian Avalugg with Ice, Fighting, and Fairy. And I've never seen someone use an Avalugg so well before. And on Derpster's side, we have the best Water Fire Grass core in the league with Iron Bundle, Cinderace, and Meowscarada. And then defensively, things like Clodsire, Alchemy, Rotom Wash, Deoxys Defense, Sliggoo, Hisuian, and Gabite. And then a Terra Mimikyu with Ghost, Ground, and Grass Terra, and a Terra Knuckle Stack defensively, which is going to be huge, with Rock, Dragon, and Ghost. Off the bat, this is a battle of Fire, Water, Grass versus Dragon, Fairy, Steel. Like, 2 of the best cores in not just in Victini Division in my mind, but in the entire league. To be able to get those in your first 3 picks was super cool. I do love Memy's draft and getting 3 incredibly good offensive mons, and then kind of just rocking it defensively outside of like a handful of picks like a Mimicure, I guess technically a Rotom Wash. But this is going to be a really tough battle for both sides. The first thing I saw this week was actually Veizen's. I keep getting Veizen and Derpster confused in my head. I don't know why. I think it's just because their drafts remind me of each other's. Derpster and his Incineroar. If something like an AV set is brought, it's going to do a ton of work, intimidating things and throwing around parting shots to let mons like Valiant or Garchomp come in a lot safer. And it's also going to have knockoff to knock off random scarfs or bands floating around. I think that's going to be one of the first mons on the team sheet this week. And alongside of that, a Terra Jolteon with any Terra type really could do a lot of work this week. Being able to significantly hurt Meowscarada or Cinderace, being Terra Ice or Terra Water. And it will have to make Memy guess correctly what type is being brought. Looking on Memy's side, there's some C Prime pointed out a red card Mimikyu could be really interesting this week. Just with Sword Stance and Shadow Sneak. Once things like the Incineroar are gone, that's going to put in a ton of work. But really, Iron Bundle this week, man, just looks so good. Memy takes the speed tiers this week comfortably, as Iron Bundle is faster than everything on Derpster's side, plus Meowscarada and Cinderace are outspeeding everything except for Jolteon. So like there's three best offensive mons are outspeeding everything but Jolteon, and Jolteon is frail. And Jolteon could put in a lot of work this week, but it's still not outspeeding Bundle unless it's a Scarf set, which is going to do a lot less damage. But Bundle is the win con here in my mind on Memy's team. Like nothing feels super comfortable taking Ice Beam, Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, or anything that is comfortable taking it, like especially Defensive Corviknight. It's leaving its EVs open for Cinderace or Meowscarada to start putting in work. Things are going to have to run more special bulk than typical, like call it a Milotic this week, to take some freeze dries, but then it's going to be much weaker to Meowscarada or just U-turns from Cinderace putting in a lot of work. And I think that's what's so key about this team. It's not just the typings, it's that Bundle especially offensive, and Cinderace, Meowscarada that can change type are physically offensive. You don't know which mon's going to be physically bulky or especially bulky, but it's going to leave it open to the other two. Alongside of that, Mimikyu could be really strong this week, again, like I said, but Incineroar has to be dealt with early. And Terra Knucklestack looks really good this week defensively. Being able to throw Salt Cures around and recover its own health, it's going to be a great check to Corviknight, going to be a great check to Garchomp if it is Terra Ghost even, especially against Valiant, being able to go Terra Ghost or Terra Rock and just kind of take some more hits there. And even like Deoxys defense looks super good. It's not going to be easy to break at all. The only thing super effective against it is Incineroar again or Spidops. And Deoxys defense is being able to put Thunder Waves and recovers and hazards on the field is going to be super helpful. Jumping back to Derpster's side, Valiant is going to be able to put in a lot of work this week, but Memy's Clodsire is going to be super annoying to break through. It's kind of a go-to check every time, especially if it's unaware. It can kind of just come in, and Valiant is going to have to run some sort of Psychic Stab on that, whether it's special or physical. And I know Garchomp is a great switch in to that. But then you just go out into a Rotom Wash, which is an immediate check to Garchomp. I do think the win con for Derpster this week could be hazards. If they can beat the Cinderace or start scaring the Cinderace from clicking Court Change with like coming in on Garchomp or coming in on Incineroar and clicking a parting shot when it switches out. If Derpster can beat the Cinderace this week, it's going to be hazards are going to be a huge problem for Memy. But honestly, I know this is going to sound like a weird shout just looking at the table, but I think I want to give the win to Memy this week. Not because I don't think Derpster's team is going to be able to take it. I just think Bundle Cinderace Masquerada does too much work into Derpster's team, and if Memy's able to play his defensive switches right this week, with things like Knuckle Stack or Rotomosh or Jocks Defense, even an annoying Alchemy set could come, or Hisuian Sliggoo, just with super especially bulky. It could be a really difficult week for Derpster to break this week, and I could see their first loss coming. The third battle this week that we're looking at is Joemama versus aGamerPerson. Joemama is 1-3 this week with a -6 differential, and Gamer is actually tied for second place between three of us at 3-1 with a +6 differential, but off of a relatively strange win last week. Joemama's team is looking like Iron Moth, Sneasler, Iron Treads, Tornadus Therian, Hatterene, Frostmoth with Terra Ice, Ground, and Electric, Garganacle, I don't know how to actually say that one, Iron Jugulus, a Terra Pincurchin, which is, I think it's really fun, with Terra Electric, Flying, and Grass, a Cacturn, and a Wugtrio. And looking at Gamer's team, it is Latios, Heatran, Quaquaval, Tinglu, Hisuian Zoroark, Regieleki, a Terra Sinistra with Terra Steel, Ghost, and Water, Hisuian Quillfish, Indeedee, a Terra Cryogonal with Terra Ice, Ghost, and Electric, and Berserker. So let me just adjust my seat. Apologies. This is going to be another really tight game this week. With Joemama probably looking to get a few more wins on the board, and people looking to take down Gamer a little bit. It's going to be a game of who limits the offense the most. Both of these teams are relatively hyper offensive, with a handful of things like Garganacle or Tinglu being your defensive checks. Both these teams do a ton of damage really quickly. Looking at Joemama's side, their top 3 mons, Iron Moth, Sneasler, and Iron Treads, do not like Tinglu. And what can take Tinglu, like a Tornadus or a Jugulus, Regieleki, and a Cryogonal cover for them really quickly. So Regieleki / Cryogonal and Tinglu, first 2 mons on the team sheet for Gamer, and are not going to be easy to break down. But then on Gamer's side, they are super Dark Weak, and Iron Jugulus looks like it can do a ton of damage. Iron Jugulus is able to threaten the Quaquaval with flying moves, hits the Latios, is able to hit the Zoroark, hit the Sinistra before Terra, hit the Indeedee super well. Jugulus could play a big part in this game, especially looking at its movesets, some sort of a Specs set or even a Life Orb set, and being able to switch around moves is going to be super helpful. Both sides have great hazard removal this game, but Gamer's side has much better statuses in my mind, which could be a really big win con. Things like Thunder Waves and Will-O-Wisp being able to be spread around much easier than Joemama is able to spread around statuses. But Gamer's also super fighting weak, and Sneasler looks weird this game. Its poison typing only hurts it this week. Its fighting typing does a lot for it this week. Some sort of an air balloon Sneasler set, or a just like a defensive with fighting type moves Sneasler set this week is probably going to come, and is going to do a lot of work against the things like Heatran and Tinglu, and even Hisuian Quillfish. But Joemama takes these speed tiers comfortably, because besides Regieleki on Gamer's side, Tornadus, Sneasler, and Wugtrio are faster than everything on the team, plus Iron Moth, Iron Jugulus, and Iron Treads are all able to become faster super easily with either Energy Booster or Pincurchin, which I think a Terrifying Pincurchin this week could put in a lot of work. It's going to check that Tinglu a lot easier than it would be able to before. It's going to give things like Sneasler an unneeded but possible unburden boost. It's going to let Moth, which I don't think Moth is coming, it could give Treads or Moth or Jugulus a special attack boost or a speed boost to outspeed those things like Regieleki. And just overall, like, if Gamer is able to get past the Quaquaval, which I think is going to be the win con for Gamer, if Quaquaval starts getting speed boosts and a Moxie boost, there's not much Joemama's team's going to be able to do against it. Like, Garganacle's annoying to break, as it always is annoying to break. And Iron Jugulus does resist. Iron Jugulus doesn't actually resist any of Quaquaval's types. It's just able to be faster and do more damage. I'm torn between who I think is going to get this game, by the way. Like Gamer's Draco Meteors do so much damage, but then if Joemama brings Hatterene, Latios is immediately shut down, and that can be an immediate switch in every time. So this is going to be a very tight game. Gamer has it in ranking in the league 4 weeks in and being second place. That's really good. But I think Joemama might have the matchup this week. I think I am going to give the win to Gamer this week still, because even though Joemama's speed tiers look better and Pincurchin can come and be really dangerous, I just think Quaquaval and Tinglu and Zoroark are going to be too hard to break, and their best offensive threats are shut down by a combination of Tinglu and Cryogonal, which are both going to be very, especially if it's Terra Cryogonal with some type that's unexpected, is going to be really helpful to Gamer this week, and I think is going to possibly nudge them into their 4th win of the season. Game 4 this week is actually me. It is me versus CBTrice. I apologize, I had the wrong thing up here. Let me just get that back up. There we go. It is me versus CBTrice. I am not going to say what my record is this week because my week 4 battle is not up yet, and I don't want to spoil that. But CBTrice is 1-3, coming off of a win. They are at -7, but they got their first win of the season. My team is Ogerpon Hearthflame, Clefable, Manaphy, Roaring Moon, Fortress, the KO leader Goldengo, Terra Electrode with Electric Flying and Fairy, Uxie, Ambipom, Terra Sliggoo with Dragon, Water, and Fairy, and Drowsy. And CBTrice's team, again, let me just find where their things are, is Dragapult, Ursaluna Bloodmoon, Darkrai, Hitmontop, Diancie, Terra Orthworm with Steel, Fairy, Electric, Rotom Fan, Scyther, a Terra Delphox with Fire, Grass, and Fairy, Tentacool, and Gallade. So I of course will talk about this game, but I will not say who I think is going to win because I am battling in it. But I will say some things. I'm not going to say everything because I don't want to spoil what I'm doing yet. Granted, I haven't really looked at the matchup too much, like for team building purposes. But on my end, an offensive Clefable actually looks relatively solid. It can put in a cheeky amount of work this week into CB's team, with their only real resist being Delphox or Tentacool. Dragapult, Ursaluna Bloodmoon, Darkrai, and Hitmontop, none of them really want to take Moonblasts or Ice Beams in that regard. On CBTrice's team, Dragapult and Darkrai they look terrifying. Darkrai looks really scary, being able to beat Uxie and Fortress, and granted, so can Dragapult. And they both can especially beat Goldengo, which Goldengo looks very good offensively this game, but doesn't feel good switching into anything or staying in anything. It can only really be utilized on switches in. Like Goldengo gets shut down by Dragapult, Ursaluna, and Darkrai. I think this game's going to be a lot of, is their offense going to be able to break down my defense? I can absolutely see some really cool tech on either side, making this game really fascinating. Like something like a Trick Room team from CBTrice's team could be really scary and really hard to face on my end, especially from a Blood Moon Ursaluna, just being able to hit all things on my team incredibly hard. I believe its ability allows it to hit ghost types too, so like even though Goldengo couldn't take the ground type moves, it also probably can't take the Blood Moons or the Hyper Voices. CBTrice takes its speed tiers pretty comfortably this week, with Dragapult and Darkrai outspeeding all of my team besides Electrode. But then my Ambipom, Ogerpon, and Roaring Moon actually outspeed everything else. So if I bring Terra Fairy Electrode this week, that could be fascinating. Ursaluna Blood Moon still really hurts it, but we can ignore that. CBTrice also has some really good priority this week, and a lot of hazards that are going to be able to hurt my team, especially because things like Will-O-Wisp, Darkrai, or Dragapult typically my Goldengo would switch into those hazards, or those statuses, but I'm not switching my Goldengo into a Dragapult or Darkrai this week. If I play my utility right, or my 7 different mons that have access to Thunder Wave, which is hilarious to me, I can really hurt CBTrice's team. But this is a lot of, am I able to strategically play around things like Ursaluna and Darkrai and Dragapult, or is their offense just going to be able to break down my Pokemon faster than I can whittle down his team? Looking at the 5th game this week, we have Fowl versus Sandy, which is going to be super, super intense. Fowl right now is 2-2 with a complete neutral, neutral differential. However, coming off of 2 losses in a row, and Sandy is also 2-2. However, coming off of 2 wins in a row, and 1 convincing win with the team that they didn't draft, and 1 convincing win with the team that they did draft. So both teams are really wanting to win here to go 3-2. But it's going to be a stressful one for both of them. Fowl's team looks like Chi-Yu, Palafin, Cyclizar, Scissor, a Terra Espeon with Terra Psychic, Fairy, and Electric, a Terra Whimsicott with Terra Fairy, Fire, and Ground, Amoonguss, Gligar, Iron Boulder, Quagsire, and Hisuian Dora. That's a nuts team. That's a ridiculous team. Its bulk is average. Its offense is unbelievable. Looking at Sandy's team, they have a Zamazenta Crown, Terapagos, a Chaladon, Pelipper, Rillaboom, Raging Bolt, Floatzel, a Terra Barraskewda with Terra Water, Fighting, and Ground, a Terra Driftblim with Terra Ghost, Fairy, and Poison, Murkrow, and a little Pikachu. So this is this is gonna be a really scary but fun week to watch. Sandy has a really scary rain team, and the way I see it, Fowl has a team that's not terrified of rain. I think immediately on Fowl's side, Quagsire and Scissor are one of the first 2 on the team sheets. Quagsire rocking probably Water Absorb this week. Feeling really good taking this Rain Core. And then Scissor checking the 2 things that beat Quagsire in Rillaboom and... Oh, I guess it's only really Rillaboom. So those 2 as a pair, and even if it's like just a defog, does Scissor get defog anymore? Let me check. It does, yeah. So even if it's a defog U-turn, bulky Scissor set, that's gonna be a really helpful defensive core against Sandy's team. Along with that, Spore, Amoonguss, and Prankster Whimsicott are, I think, are going to be super, super clutch for Fowl to win this game this week. Either both of them or one of the 2, as long as they are able to avoid and get rid of that Pelipper, it's going to hinder Sandy's team indefinitely the rest of that game. But on Sandy's side, just that team is nuts. Zamazenta Crown looks like it's so unbelievably hard to beat this game, especially under rain, not fearing the Chi-Yu when it's in rain, and being able to take it out probably in 1 hit with something like a Body Press. There's nothing that is clear and going to be able to beat it one-on-one. Like, even if Amoonguss is able to get a Spore off, what is Amoonguss going to do against it? A Terra Ground Barraskewda could be really scary for Zamazenta, and honestly for the rest of their team. But then Whimsicott and Amoonguss can kind of come in and check that. I think Rillaboom has to be a for sure bring for Sandy this week. Even if it's like a sub Grassy Glide set, that could look wicked strong. And so does a bulky Raging Bolt, which only really Whimsicott and Quagsire are able to scare it. And I don't think either of those actually scare Raging Bolt. And it's really hard to decide who wins in speed tiers this week, because both teams are really, really fast. But this is all going to depend on if rain comes. If rain comes, then Sandy has much better speed, but it's really 50-50 if rain comes this game, because I do think Fowl has a team that's able to beat rain, but you have to bring a team specifically to beat rain, and I don't think that team beats Zamazenta, Terapagos, Archaladon, Rillaboom, Raging Bolt, Driftblim. Like, if he doesn't bring Rain Team, then it's going to be much harder for Fowl to beat a Fowl prepped for rain team. Back on Fowl's side, Palafin in the rain could be huge this game. Even just Palafin in general, that mon is ridiculous. The fact that it was drafted second behind Chiyu is hilarious to me. Palafin with close combat, threatening Zamazenta, Terapagos, and Archaludon only really has to be careful for Rillaboom and Raging Bolt, and the close combat trucks those two. If Palafin's able to get in and get out super quickly, as soon as it comes back in, it is going to be a menace to Sandy's team. It is also worth noting that Sandy's team does not have reliable recovery this week. He has great bulk options in Raging Bolt or Terra Driftblim, but it's not going to be able to heal up their team super well. I mean, there's Roost, Pelipper, there's Grassy Terrain that's going to be able to heal everything relatively slowly, but Chip is going to be huge this game. And a Quagsire that can hazard stack is going to force out the Terapagos and the Driftblim to get rid of those hazards, which will be a great time to get Palafin back in, or even something like an Amoonguss to throw out a Spore, or one of his 3 mons like Gligar, Quagsire, or Amoonguss that can throw out some Toxics. This is going to be a really tough game for either of them to win. I am going to give the win to Sandy, I think, just because I think Sandy's on a roll this week. I think it's a pretty even matchup, but I do think Fowl has to prep for rain, and if they don't prep for rain, they lose to rain, and if they do prep for rain, Sandy can still beat that team as long as they're playing smart. And just the Zamazenta, Terapagos, or Chaludon is so difficult to beat without a fighting type on your team. And the final match we are looking at this week is Magnanime versus Mug. Magnanime is 1-3 at -5, and Mug is the third team that is also tied for second, which means also tied for fourth, at 3-1. However, coming off of a loss. So both teams have a lot to play for this week. I'm going to say that with every game. I think every team has a lot to play for each week. Magnanime's team is Spectrier Latias, a Terra Lycanroc with Rock, Grass, and Fighting. Mandibuzz, a Terra Lucario with Steel, Normal, and Fairy. I'm not sure where that normal Terra came from, by the way. That is interesting to me. Dragalge, Grafaiai, Slowbro, Umbreon, Mamoswine, and Sandaconda. And then Mug's team is Galarian Slowking, Great Tusk, King Gambit, Thundurus Therian, Porygon 2, Alolan Ninetales, Torracat, a Terra Bramblegast with Ghost, Water, and Fighting, Sea Titan, a Terra Fion with with Water, Fairy, and Ground, and a Hatcham. So I'm going to put this out the bat here. I think Mug takes this game pretty comfortably this week. Not because I don't think Magnanime is going to play well, because I just think on paper, Mug's team against Magnanime's is just Pokemon for Pokemon better. Magnanime's team's weak to a handful of types like Grass and Ground and Ice and Fighting, plus is really weak to knockoff, so if an offensive Bramblegast comes, that could be really scary. Great Tusk puts in so much work against this team, especially if it brings knockoff. Even something like a Sea Titan with Chili Reception, Slowking, Galar can do so much work against this team. Being able to hit almost all of his mons for some sort of neutral or super effective damage and genuinely hurt it too. The good thing about Magnanime's team this week is they are crushing speed tiers. Spectre, Lycanroc, Latias, and Grafaiai are faster than every Pokemon on Mug's team, which means Scarfs are going to be forced to come, and Spectre and Latias and Lycanroc can probably start running things like Modest. Eventually, Alolan Ninetales is only 1 point behind a lot of those mons, so it's a little scary, but a max speed Grafaiai will always be outspeeding an Alolan Ninetales unless it is Scarfed, which is big. Like Grafaiai looks like it can actually put in a lot of work this week in my mind. And on that note, Lycanroc looks really, really solid this game against Mug's team. Or at least against Mug's lower point Pokemon, like kind of Thundurus and down, it looks really solid. But Great Tusk and King Gambit just can, they can rock Magnanime's entire team. Tusk and King Gambit really do so much to Mag's team, and the things that can cover those two, like Mandibuzz. Mug has Thundurus Siren, to cover. On like if Great Tusk is able to get a speed boost or an attack boost, like an attack boost with Cork Drive and a rapid spin speed boost, and if it's somehow able to be behind an Aurora Veil and get in safely from Slowking, I don't think there's a single thing Magnanime can do against that. I think it's just so strong. And I think Mug has way too much to cover for Magnanime this week. Like random assault vests in places could be annoying for Mug's team. Like last week I played Magnanime with an assault vest Graphii, which was annoying and hard to break, and I definitely didn't expect it. And Slowbro is going to be able to check things like Great Tusk, but a knockoff does a ton to a Slowbro. And gets rid of its great healing abilities outside of obviously Recover. Does Slowbro get Recover? I don't know. And I do think something like a Whirlpool Calm Mind Latias set could be super interesting this week, or even like a type swap with something like Great Tusk to then beat the King Gambit. I just think Mug's entire team is not only able to beat Magnanime's team, but it can take the offensive threats on Magnanime's team too. I do think Mug has to watch out for a Terra Fairy Lucario. If that thing is fast, whether that's a Scarf or somehow getting a speed boost, that puts in a lot of work. Terra Fairy crushes Great Tusk, it crushes King Gambit, and especially once that Galarian Slowking is gone, it's going to be able to put in a ton of work. I still think Mug takes it this week though. King Gambit is just so good. Well, there we have it for the week 5 pick'ems. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know in the comment if you agree, if you disagree, if there's anything you noticed that you think I missed. This is the first pick'ems I'm done. I'm doing it pretty quickly, so if it feels a little rushed or messed up a little bit, please forgive me. I'm not going to do pick'ems every week, but I am very excited to have gotten the opportunity to do it this week. And yeah, good luck to all of the coaches in week 5, and I will see you guys next time.